Hey all. Good. Today I want to talk about religion, and not like a specific religion or anything, but just um, the encounters that I've had with religious people in Korea, and I think in general what I've gleaned from that. Now, I will say, disclaimer right now, I'm not particularly practicing anything. So, this is kind of, I try to be neutral when it comes to religion in general. But I was raised in the Deep South, where religion is quite the hot topic. Um, in the Deep South, I feel like there's two parties. There's the "you need religion" party, which is the people that will judge you if you say that you don't practice anything, um, or the "I don't want to talk about it" people. It's very much in our society. And when someone brings up religion in general, I tend to hold my breath because it's fighting time, basically. If everybody in the room is not the same religion, and even within that, going to the same church, it can lead to a really, really tense, uncomfortable conversation that usually ends up with someone in tears or someone saying, "You need God," or "You need our church," or whatever. And it's just never something that I wanted to talk about, especially considering that I'm not practicing anything. Um, and so many people in the South will judge you, I feel, if you don't have a religion, let alone one that matches theirs. So I was raised not wanting to talk about it ever, ever, ever. Like, don't talk about politics, don't talk about religion, don't talk about abortion. Like, just, there's some things you don't talk about. So when I was coming to Korea, I was kind of excited because I'd read online that Koreans are not particularly religious. And I believed it because why would the internet lie to me? When I first got here, you can imagine my surprise that my co-teacher, my lifeline at that point, was a devoutly Christian woman. Um, and I remember some of our first conversations were literally, "Do you have a religion?" And I kind of, held my breath and I was like, "I was raised Catholic," and tried to like avoid, actually answering the question because of my past experience. And she was like, "Okay, that's interesting. Do you practice now?" And I was like, "Not really." And she's like, "That's fine. Well, if you want to go to my church, don't worry about it." And that's it. And I was like, "What is that the conversation? Like, is that all you we're going to talk about? No chairs were thrown? No, no, you're going to help? Like, just is that really all there is? Is this a trick?" But no, that was really the whole conversation. Like, she was just curious, and that was it. But we never had a single fight. The topic came up multiple times. My co-teacher had a prayer calendar on her thing on her desk that she would look at, and I never felt pressured. And it was a wonderful, to be honest, a wonderful experience. She was a very nice woman. One day I was sitting at home, and I heard a knock on my door, and of course, ignorant me just got there. I answered. Who answers their door, really? And it was Jehovah's Witnesses. And I still remember, I was like, in my head, as they're talking to me, I was like, did I really, in South Korea is the first place that I get dinged by Jehovah's Witnesses? And it was these two Korean people, and they apparently knew the girl who had lived there before me, and they like tried connecting me to her somehow, but I've never met that girl in my life. So I was like, "Yeah, I don't know her." And they were like, "Oh, well, Christy said." I was like, "Well, I'm not Christy," so. And basically by the end of it, I was like, thanks, but no thanks. And I kind of closed the door as they kept talking and learned to never answer my door unless I was expecting one ever again. So I've recently moved to Seoul, and I don't know what kind of save me sign I have on my back, but literally in the past month, I have been approached by 4 different religious organizations trying to save me. Um, I was sitting in the subway at one point, and a pastor sat down next to me and tried practicing his English on me. And the whole time, I was just like, "Dude, I was literally reading a book with my headphones on. Like, you're a pastor. Shouldn't you know a little bit about body language to know that I'm not wanting to talk to you right now?" So, he was talking about how he's going to be a missionary and how he needs to practice his English, and gave me his business card. And I was like, and he's like, "Oh, I can tell by your face that you're a really good person." And I was like, in my head, I'm like, "I am a good person, but I really don't want to talk to you right now." And so I even got off early on my subway stop because I just didn't want to talk about religion anymore, even though he was perfectly pleasant and nice. Um, and then another time I was sitting outside of Sogang, on campus, but like outside of my building, and these three girls approached me and they were like, "Hey, do you want some freshly cooked uh, fish, rice, bread stuff?" Um, it's like this common street food that they have here, and there's like cream inside, and I was like, "Yes." And so these three girls sat down, and they're like, "Oh, so you're a student?" Because I was doing my homework outside. Are you a student? Yeah, I'm a student. Da, da, da. And then, of course, eventually it came out, "Oh, we are a religious organization. Do you have religion?" And in general, when somebody asks me this, I usually lie. I say like, "Oh yeah, I'm a practicing Catholic," because usually in these situations, um, if you say that you're nothing, like that you just wake up in the morning and you try to be a good person, it confuses people a lot of times, um, and they see that as an invitation to be converted. So I usually just lie and be like, "I've already got a perfectly practicing, wonderful religion. Thanks." If this one breaks down, I'll let you know. But once again, these girls were perfectly civil. They didn't, try and explain to me who Jesus was and all that stuff, because obviously I already know, um, from what I had told them anyway. Um, and it was a perfectly pleasant experience. And eventually I had to leave, and they were like, "Well, we're stationed just outside the front door, so if you want to talk to our group, let us know." And I was like, "Okay, thanks." Every time this happens, it makes me so anxious and nervous, even though in Korea I've never had a bad experience with a religious chat. Um, but it's one part uncomfortable because I don't know the person, and mm, two parts just the topic itself. Like, I've been born and raised to feel uncomfortable when I'm having that discussion. And so the way that Koreans just nonchalantly throw it out there and then don't argue with you is still so uncomfortable for me. I'd probably be more comfortable if they wanted to fight with me. Because I don't know what to do with how nice they are about it. Like, I'm still, to this day, I'm still waiting that way I was that first conversation I had with my first co-teacher for the ping, for the "you need Jesus, and I'll tell you why." And it never comes. So basically, I'm trying to say, like, I've never been to church in Korea. Um, I don't particularly want to go to church in Korea. I'm sure it's wonderful. I'm sure the communities are great, and I've met foreigners here who go to church and they are so happy and involved. Um, but I just want to say it's really surprisingly nice here how Christian-like the Christians I've come across are. Um, as far as Buddhists, I've never been ever approached by anyone who's not Christian trying to talk to me about my religion, which I find interesting. In general, I found it's been a pretty pleasant experience. So I want to know what you guys think about this. Like, for foreigners who lived in Korea for any period of time, did you go to church here? What was that like? Um, have you had an uncomfortable religious experience? I know that there are a couple of cultish, slightly weird religions here that are trying to recruit foreigners. Have you ever been approached by them? I want to hear your stories. By all means, put it in the comments below or message me if you feel like it's a private thing on my Facebook. I always check those. I love your faces, and we'll see y'all, next time. Bye.